Oh, do you really?
Yeah, I was reading an article about talking about how depression this adaptive process when from some type of policy said when you read it, you'll see.
Okay, I'll check it out. I saw that you said it.
Okay, everyone, if you could join us again, we'll get started here.
Our money where our mouth is. We have requested some questions before coming out here to California. We've asked people we work with in 4-H in New York State to give us questions. We've asked some college students who couldn't make it here, but who have thought a little bit about purpose. What would you ask these researchers if you were in the room? Sorry, we can't fly you all out to California, but we can at least maybe get some answers for you. So we've tried to come up with some different activities to help you engage with these questions in hopefully fun, different ways. We also we're calling this our Q&A happy hour because we have some beverages in the back that you can fill yourselves up. While you're back there, I'd ask you to grab a name tag. I know you already have one, but this name tag in particular has a little symbol in the corner that tells you what group you're part of. I know that many of us know each other and have worked together before, but also there are some new faces, and we want you to get a chance to interact with people you maybe haven't met before. So we've tried to, break up all the Stanford people and all these big groups that we have. We've tried to get you to talk to some other people. So we're going to be at this for about an hour, but it's pretty quick moving. There are 4 different stations you'll rotate through. But before that, we'll just have you do a little icebreaker in your group. We've heard a lot about people's research, but it's also important to know, we're all people, right? People, not variables. And so as an icebreaker, once you find your group after you've gotten your drink and your name tag, if you want to share, thinking about your direction in life, there's probably many other directions you could have taken. So what would one of those directions have been? So just share your name and where you're from, and a different life path that you maybe thought about taking, maybe pursued for a little while and changed. That'll be our little icebreaker. And then we will spend about 5 minutes at each of 4 stations. So this one is a pretty free-ranging brainstorm. There are some questions up on the wall from people who aren't here today, but and just write whatever comes to mind. We have one station where it'll be like, what would you tweet? So come up with a very brief, like 20 words or less response to a question. Because sometimes there's value in having to choose each word very carefully, right? We have another station that's we're calling Know Your Audience, where how would you answer the same question if you were talking to a teenager, a parent, someone who works in a youth development program, or some other kind of, there's another answer on there. But thinking about how you would tailor your message for different audiences. And then our final one is design a study in 5 minutes. And Tony thought this was going to drive everyone crazy, so I'm going to just tell you now, I don't expect you to actually design a whole study in 5 minutes, but we're hopeful that this hour will just get you thinking about these ideas. We've heard a lot of ideas today that come out of research, but this is really bringing that non-researcher element to our conference because that's very important to us. So I will alert you when it's time to start rotating, but right now I'd invite you to grab a drink if you'd like.
Okay, so where do we go? There must be more than...
So the goal, 20 words or less to answer these questions. There are 20 spaces, so 1 word per blank. But you can answer all of them. I think it's kind of fun to do them all together, though.
Okay, so the idea is we're coming up with the answers, joint answers to each of these within 140 characters. Is that okay?
With 20 words, just to make it a little, so we don't have to count characters.
So which should we start, Helene?
Yeah.
We'll start working on yours.
How do I discover my purpose in life? If I see what I do, I know what I do.
Say ask what you're good at, what you value, and how you can use it to impact other people.
I have a 6-step plan. Right?
Yeah, I know, right? Right, so let's see, how would we do that in 20 words?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Strengths, values, and how to use it to impact
I
others.
think Aristotle actually said you use
Is that
exemplars.
within 20 words?
It might be.
Okay, give
Strengths,
it a shot.
values, and how.
Yeah. Aristotle talked about the need to emulate, not imitate a virtuous person. That's one way to start.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Do both. We do emulate virtuous person, colon.
Yeah. Yeah. Headstone test.
Strengths. Find your strengths. Or identify your strengths, values, and how, and
Yeah.
and who you want to
Yeah,
impact.
affirm values. Can we put semicolons in between, or is that cheating?
I think semicolons
I
are
think it
allowed.
probably is.
We have to use a whole space for one.
Would you be comfortable with that one as a definition?
Yeah, I mean they're all fine. This is the kind of thing I'm just choosing among 1,000 good ideas, and this is good. This works.
Identify your strengths, comma, values, and
Do what the Stoics did. Contemplate your mortality.
and who you want to impact.
Do what?
We want to get like the impact in there, right? Like the outer, like the pro-social nature of the purpose.
Yeah. What legacy? That's legacy.
Oh,
So
yes.
What's your legacy?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a headstone
That could
test.
be-
What do
that
you
could be
want
the
on your
last-
headstone?
What's your legacy? Perfect. There you go. That's nice. This is a stunning tweet. This is a stunning tweet.
Oh, are you going to tweet these out?
Maybe. Yeah.
You're a facilitator. You're guzzling wine down.
I've had one sip so far, but we'll see. I might guzzle later.
Oh, okay.
What's yours, Bill?
What if my purpose doesn't lead me to a lucrative career?
Well, who was this? What study showed that it does?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was Patrick.
it should.
Patrick
Right.
said that when you have a purpose, you make more money. So
Yeah.
just say bad question.
Well,
When you have purpose, you manage your money better. That's what I'm saying. You invest your
So I'm sorry. Can you cite it again? I was too.
what if my purpose doesn't lead me to a lucrative career? How about enjoy all the other things that it does for you? Enjoy all the other benefits that it gives you. Plus, who knows? It may end up making you money too.
Or say, rich people are usually unhappy.
You could say that. I don't know if we have quite enough data to. It is true, but I don't know if we have the empirical support for that.
Shall we write that in there? That's
We can say the rich people we know are unhappy.
the rich people we know are unhappy.
Usually unhappy.
And that's true. That is true. Are amazingly, surprisingly unhappy.
No, the billionaires cry, oh, my wife hates me, my kids won't talk to me.
Tell me about it.
Look at Donald Trump. Senator Donald Trump.
Well, he's making everyone else unhappy.
Yeah, he's making everyone unhappy.
This is he very happy to
No, he doesn't, and he never will be. He could. It's the perfect.
Benefits. Like let's see the other benefits of a purposeful career. Fulfillment.
Relationships?
Satisfied mind. There was a country song like that. I can't remember. It's called A Satisfied Mind. It's exactly about this. About not one rich man in 10 has a satisfied mind. That's right. That's a country.
Okay, we
It's a
nailed this.
country song.
nailed this one.
All right, here we go. And the money may follow. There we go. We nailed that one. All right. In one sentence, how would you define purpose?
A goal that you deeply value. Or a value, yeah.
How about good? Good for yourself. Good for the world.
Ooh, that's I like that.
Very good.
But I would also say it's a meta goal that you deeply value. So it really is your
Oh, yeah, no, it is. That's
your
right. It's
value structure,
Yeah,
and
no,
then you set goals around that as opposed to waking up and going, I think I'll be a better person. You wake up and you say, here's a goal set to
It's
that.
a goal
I
that
think that's a
organizes
purpose.
all other goals.
I think
We
that's
could use
what-
my
yes,
favorite
I think that's
tagline now: why it matters and how to make it happen.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Look at you
that.
guys, you're
That's
like
the tagline
sucking
of
down
my
the
book.
alcohol too. I love it. Be with us.
Okay.
I'm digging it.
7:14 my time.
Yeah. That's true.
When does the dance music start?
You already have a
Okay,
You're
good.
kicking
All
us
right,
out.
well done. Okay, well done,
All right,
tweeters.
guys.
Thank you.
And so what it connects to.
Oh, so we, instead of cross out yes and put it depends. The classic social science answer. It depends. But we won't say why.
There's a little mystery going on.
We'll let other people.
Okay.
So here I would say, do a reality check and see if they may be right, and if they're not, stick with it and convince them that you're on the right path.
I think that's
Yeah, you know, I am
because my mother
constantly,
was so
I'm constantly stymied by this idea. Should you recommend that a child follows their dreams, or to be a little more practical? And you know, you see a lot of people who follow their dreams and live in a trailer park and are quite unhappy at the age of 50.
Yeah, and then they've tried to be a filmmaker or whatever.
Yeah, all of our kids in our neighborhood want to go on Broadway, and you know, you just go
But
be
on
an
the,
astronaut.
but on the other hand, Richard Rogers of Rogers and Hammerstein,
Yeah.
his parents beat on him for 10 years to become a lawyer. And he said when between the ages of 20 and 30, it took him until age 30 to have a successful song. But then he became Richard Rogers.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Jeff Daniels is his name. He lives in our neighborhood. And
Oh,
he
really?
said, you know, it's my parents who supported me just about 5 years longer than other parents supported everybody in New York City as a waiter. I just got a little more time. So following your dreams could be good, but it could probably ruin your life.
I think the good news from our research is that up to a point, the parental resistance actually strengthens the resolve.
Oh, yes.
And
This is the
so that's
Nietzschean
not bad.
camel that is going out and learning the world and then slaying the thou shalt parent dragon and becoming a child.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Now,
that
if the
is.
parents, pour a ton of bricks in the kid, that's right. But and the best thing is when the parents, when the parents finally turn around and say, okay, I'll support you do it. But that resistance has really helped in a lot of ways. And then sometimes the parents are afraid of the situation.
Yeah, my dad said, if you're going to public health, you will never make any money doing that. And then last year, when I bought his house for him, I reminded him of that.
My parents said that I could do whatever I wanted once I became an expert in something. They didn't want me to go to Columbia Journalism School. I wanted to go to journalism school straight up, and they said they wanted me to become an expert in something, and then I could go do whatever I wanted. And I thought
Columbia
that was-
College or Columbia University?
Like the yeah, I
The
mean,
one in Chicago or New York?
to the one in New York. I mean, I was
Okay,
going to
yeah.
go to the
Yeah.
the J school there,
Yeah.
and they said, no, go become an expert in something,
Yeah.
and then you can do whatever. And I thought that was really terrific advice. So it's not that you can't do it; it's just that go get yourself a grounding.
But how do you follow your dreams when they go against your faith? You just,
I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's strength. Yeah,
is resistance good?
yeah.
I think that's what you were saying.
Better prepare students to feel a larger sense of purpose when they graduate.
So think about the biggest world problem.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's in my book, which is on sale at Amazon.
just gave us. Oh, that's a different book than what you just gave us?
That's talk to, I just brought 8 copies.
And also, sort of thinking always about why it matters. I think that, so that was why I was asking the question about purpose inside the classroom, because I think teachers at the middle school and high school level can bring in so much more about why am I teaching this? Why does it matter? If you don't understand history, it repeats itself. But what does that mean? If you can't write, what does that mean? Why can't you communicate? Why does that matter?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, why do people do chemistry anyway?
That's what that STEM study found. Like, why am I in here to do
I
this?
mean, why do they're making me learn all these formulas?
Yeah.
Why do people do this stuff?
There's also these great generational studies which said that one of the best things you can do is have children as older adults and act as equals, trying to solve a problem together or sharing information. I mean, there are a whole host of studies like that in the generational area.
As you're thinking, positive development, like character development, like purpose.
Same level as
All right.
We have to switch.
Time's up. It's time for
It was great working with you, Rachel.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to write that last one.
Very good. She's my teaching.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
This study is 5 minutes. So these are questions that have been asked by 4-H youth, 4-H educators, and some Cornell students. And they're asking questions about the purpose of the study in 5 minutes to answer questions. And there are no funding constraints. There's really nothing you have to worry about here, which is very exciting. So go ahead.
Now wait.
Do we get to pick
Should
one?
we do it as a group?
Yes, you can do it as a group. So you
Which
can
one
do
do we want to do? Which one do we want
Let's
to do?
close our eyes and pick one.
You mean you have the questions for us? Oh,
Yeah.
you have
Shall I
the
do
questions.
eeny, meeny,
We'll
miny,
pick
mo?
one, and we'll figure it out.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
In
Eeny,
yeah.
meeny, miny, mo. Catch
Okay.
a tiger by its toe. If you holler, let it go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
You must have children or
Okay,
something.
this
I
is
do. I have lots of
No,
young
it's,
children.
it's that one.
Is it that one?
Yeah.
Yes, it was that end one.
Oh, was it? Sorry, Elaine. Okay.
But we,
It's a little arbitrary, so I don't think
just
it really
spent a
makes
I guess
little
so. It hardly matters, does it?
No, it doesn't matter at all. How can we better prepare students? Oh, fantastic.
I know nothing about this. I'm shutting up. Okay. You're the developmental.
Yes. So how would you design a study about this?
Wait, I haven't read it yet. I'm slow. How can we better prepare students in elementary and middle and high school to feel a larger sense of purpose once they graduate?
well, see, I would get 7th graders, and I would get widows and widowers from the local continuing care retirement center who are feeling very lonely. Okay, feeling very lonely, and I would design a project where I design a project where they should address a problem that is of interest to both of them. Presumably, you might find that there are people who are interested in sort of intergenerational problems, sharing across generations. Should our resources go to older people like me, or should resources go for you in childhood? And get them talking about it, record what they say, have them write a narrative about their findings, and then present it to a larger group and come up with a local report about how, say, Ithaca, New York, Ann Arbor, Michigan, or wherever we live, should address this very important problem. Serve both generations.
So I just want to be clear about this. You're saying widows and widowers would work with these
12th
school
graders.
kids, 12th
School
graders,
kids.
but the 12th graders would, would also be working with the widows and widowers. There'd be
Yes.
some sort of reciprocal
There'd be
benefit
some
from
kind
this.
of-
Is that what you're looking
yeah,
at?
they would be working they would be working together in that the children would be working with someone who could be potentially be a mentor for them.
There are programs in Sweden, is it Sweden or Norway, that do something similar with college students
living in retirement homes.
Right,
And,
right. I read about that. People with Alzheimer's. Now, so you could have senior centers, right? You could do this with senior centers?
You could go to a
so it doesn't
senior
have to be
center.
widows and widowers
Doesn't-
necessarily.
But most of the people who
But-
come there are widows and widowers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they would be working with these kids. What would they be doing? What's the interaction? Where do you see it?
Well, I came up kind of with a problem at random, but you'd have to come up with a problem that would interest both of them, in which they would both have a stake.
What if they both separately and then came together? They did a series of sort of exercises asking about their strengths, their values, who they want to impact, and I'm of course thinking of my book. But if they did a workbook, a purpose, sort of a step-by-step purpose kind of workbook, separately, then brought them together, then saw the similarities, and then together came up with something that would live
Or
purposefully.
that might be insensitive with older people, particularly if you're thinking of a senior setting, because most of these people don't have a lot of money. They haven't necessarily had big accomplishments in their lives. They may be alone. So you might want to talk about something which is more neutral. And I'll just say a colleague is actually doing this. They're actually talking about the history of Ithaca, how it's changed.
The history of what?
The history of Ithaca, how it's changed since these older adults lived there.
So when
as
older
teenagers.
adults get together with kids, and I'm not throwing cold water on this, but when they get together with kids and they say, when I was your age, Ithaca was like this, don't the kids want to cut their throats?
No. If you structure but you have to train the kids and also the older adults about how to speak to one another. It has to be carefully
And when kids,
facilitated.
though, talk to like seniors, do the seniors really go, wow, that's an awesome idea? Do they?
But I think Victor is
Because
getting to
it's a
something.
stranger. That's just because it's a stranger.
I think it's a really nice idea. I think it's a really nice idea as
me too.
as an intervention strategy. But here's the but, and it kind of gets to what Victor was saying a little bit, is that purpose is a really individual thing. And some kids will really take to this, and that will help them. Other kids are more, let's say, a computer nerd. That what that kid really would get turned on to is by spending time around a computer scientist and learning more about how to program. Other kids with sports, and some kids don't have anything to do with older people, and you can't really. It's not going to foster purpose in those kids by making them do it.
It's hard to force
So
it.
what I would say is that could be one out of a menu of ideas, and then do a comparative study and see which ones.
Or they'll have the children teach the older adults something that the older adults want to know.
Yeah, like social media.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah.
That would be
Maybe
great.
kids should teach adults social media.
Social media projects.
Okay, so I think we've got our.
Okay.
Does that work?
Okay.
Because
All right, so-
older adults feel very left out of the information age. Kids could teach them how to do this. So, are you already doing this? If you're not, I'm going to do it.
Well, so Elaine's project at PRYDE is on predictive social media use, and that is something that's come up in conversations with 4-H educators, is a desire for that type of strategy that connects older adults with youth.
And which has a lot of FaceTime. 4-H has to have a lot of FaceTime.
So that is something that is in the works.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question. Is it a valid purpose if a senior wants to build a whole Facebook program to support Donald Trump? Is that a transcending purpose? If he says, I want to help other people vote better and be smarter about our politics,
Yes.
and so I'm going to help Donald Trump
Yes.
do this, and I'm going to teach
I
everybody
believe so.
about how great Donald Trump is.
I believe so, because that person believes that Donald Trump is great because
I agree with you. I agree with you.
of really closely held. I mean,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I mean you have to say that would be a purpose.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Not a
because
fan of
no,
the intervention.
well,
but-
neither am I. But I think it's a. I mean, our nanny is going to be voting for Donald Trump, and she has. So I have so she has.
Are the cameras off? Can
Really,
you put
like, very
pills or something,
yeah.
or like milk?
So
or something?
she has,
Here's a
but she has
drink.
very purposeful reasons for doing it. And so while I don't respect her, I agree with her choice. I respect her. I respect the values that are leading her to that.
Oh yeah.
Does
yeah.
that?
Yeah. No, they're,
It really does, sure.
So I think so.
His supporters are not all deplorable.
They're not all in the
You're
basket.
right, you're right, Bill.
At least half are not completely deplorable.
Okay. Would having kids teach older adults to use social media boost a sense of purpose among both groups? Right?
Older
and then what
kids
would
teaching
we?
seniors.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
How to
would,
use
would
social
having
media.
kids teaching older adults to
Yeah,
use
perfect.
social media boost a sense of purpose among both groups. What would we measure? We would do, use purpose scales.
Oh, especially if the seniors were to build something.
Oh, self-efficacy too.
Well, it's self-efficacy and it's purpose. So you have to come up with a project. That would be cool. What's a control group? They play cards together.
That could build purpose too, because it's just the
Yeah,
connection
the
and
seniors
breaking
could
the
teach the
loneliness.
kids how to play poker. That would be
They would love that. I would love to have. I mean, if I could go back and have my grandmother teach me how to play bridge, I would really have paid attention.
Whoa.
that's
Whoa, there's another intervention.
Wouldn't that be amazing? I would love
Do we have
to
another
have.
sheet?
Yeah.
No, that is another intervention. That'd be very interesting.
Right?
We're rocking the house here.
Right? Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean,
I love
I don't know
it.
if you guys know how to play bridge, but what I
Mahjong
know
or
of it is
something. Yeah.
it's like
I
a
don't
really
think
complicated.
Mahjong would catch on quite the same way.
Oh, Mahjong is like super popular in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
Every 20-year-old is learning Mahjong. It's so bizarre. Yeah, no, it's the hot area.
I'll tell you. They're sitting there at the beer garden doing Mahjong.
Pre and post. Yeah.
Because Dave and I hang out at that beer garden.
When you're there?
When I'm there, I go to that beer garden every night.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna teach my kids how to play I don't know, some card game, or like backgammon.
Don't teach them blackjack. They'll lose too much money on.
Yeah, I guess that's
Vegas.
true. Maybe backgammon.
I don't think
that's not a card
the
game.
IRB would not like that.
No, but bridge.
IRB would not
Bridge.
approve of this. No.
Yeah.
Because we'd have to ask for chips from the NIH.
Real ones.
Yeah.
Credited to a Vegas casino where we would also have to go as part of the intervention.
Right.
Now it's setting
But
up quite nicely.
We'd get a letter of support from
I think
Caesar's
we're like
Palace.
the bad kids group. I'm sorry, we're not.
We're not very good.
But I think we have a good study.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
You
We
can
were the
edit
best,
out the
right? That's
political
all.
So
commentary.
we're gonna do is sit over there and force that group to.
I'm sorry?
We had that.
Yes, but now we're doing it for different
We're doing
audiences.
it for
Yes.
different audiences.
Yeah.
What if my purpose in life isn't that important or doesn't help that many people? In one sentence, how would you define purpose?
No, to these different groups. How cool. And we just pick one of these?
Yep. And what's the difference between purpose in life and goals or dreams? And how do I discover my purpose?
Which do you guys want to pick?
Do we know what the audiences are?
Yes, you have a teenager, someone who works with youth, a parent, and an adult.
The discover my purpose might be interesting across the
Yes. Let's do that one.
All right.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
All right, so how would you tell a teenager, how do I discover my purpose in life? Or if they came and asked you this question, what would you say to a teenager?
I say, I want a purpose in life. Can you help me find my purpose?
How do I discover?
I would say, take a gap year and work in Africa. You would have something different. But that's what I would say. I'd say, in other words, the
that would
Nietzschean
definitely-
camel. See the world,
Yeah, no,
experience the world.
that would definitely make some stuff happen.
I do that a lot.
What if they don't have the funding to do that?
Oh, no, you can definitely find a way to get to some other place and help. And you can work for the Peace Corps, and you can work for Teach America, and you can work for AmeriCorps, and a lot of other things. So, all I'm saying is get out in the real world and see how the world lives, how they love, how they hate, how they get sick, how they are lonely, how they party. Figure out the world.
That's right. And you could,
Yeah, I guess I'd add to. After the kid comes back from that year, I think then you still have to do things. I'd say, and then think about things in the world that you feel could use improvement. Think about what you have to add and offer. Think about what you enjoy doing, and think about what you're good at.
Okay, we nailed that.
What lights you up and sets the world on fire?
Yeah.
I'm not sure at that age, though. Do you think? Like, I know. Well, I don't know. Personally speaking, I had no clue. No clue.
Then I think the other thing is just try something. Say yes.
Thank you so much. So we are just about done with this, but this reflection is an important
Lighten our load.
Try something and say
the
yes.
next few minutes talking within your group about what are any themes you noticed of questions that people who don't research purpose for a living, what are some themes of the questions that they had? Or what surprised you? Or what are you going to remember? What might you actually decide to study when you go home? So just spend a few minutes talking with your group, reflecting on what was hopefully an engaging and fun conversation around questions that didn't come from people in this room. And then I think Tony has some closing remarks, and then we'll wrap up. So, he doesn't, but please spend the next 5 minutes talking to each other.
One thing that is interesting to me is I think people really grasp onto the notion of purpose as a singular and static thing throughout their life, that they have to find one thing that will sustain them for the next 50 years. I think that's like the kind of like the layperson idea of purpose. And so when I talk to my college students, I say, first of all, let's just shatter that. And I talk about purpose mindset, about, about sort of like a growth mindset, but a purpose mindset.
I know it's really a way to set yourself up for feeling like a failure.
And it's also a great way to delay living purposefully, because you say, I just can't make such a big decision yet. That's for later. My purpose is for later. And so I'm seeing that a lot from these questions. Right? That it's this big thing for later rather than something that you can do in small ways by living in keeping with your values right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and the general theme of people really don't know what the word means.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That's a very good point.
and it's used in a lot of millions of confusing in different ways.
Yes.
In the world.
Well, I think the idea of simplifying this down to understanding your core values and what you care about, and core values, that's an academic term, but what do you care about in your life? And you start probing that, and then you start setting goals around what you care about. That's a purpose. And I think for me, it's important to understand that we don't have to turn this into, I need to meditate in a cave for 6 months in northern India to find this transcending purpose. Trying to break it down into something pretty straightforward.
I agree, but then in fact, so that's what I do. But it'd be interesting to see whether it would meet the sort of the real criteria of a purpose. So what I ask people 3 questions. What are you good at? What do you care about? What are your values? And who are the people or groups you want to impact? And then I put it in a sentence. Because I value A, B, and C, I will use my strengths for X, Y, and Z to impact A, B, and C,
This
right?
is like a Mad Lib.
Exactly. So this is this Mad Lib thing, right? And then people sit with it, and I say, that may not make total sense, but this is the beginnings. And I try to demystify purpose that way. But do you think that that's fair, or do you think that that simplifies purpose to the point that it doesn't actually help people in a more transcendent way?
No, I think that's. I mean, I think that's just what you want to do is get them started in reflecting about it, and like anything, they'll go as far as they want to go. They'll if you get them started in 5 years, they'll look back and think that was a pretty simple conversation, but look at all the other things today. So I think that's a good starting place for sure.
Right, especially with that data that we were talking about earlier, where we're seeing these iatrogenic effects for just by asking about purpose and interviewing with these individuals, you're sparking something. And so, although it might be a simplification, I think that's what people need to an extent, because it does spark it.
And people read, I mean, I was amazed when I put out the Path to Purpose and I started doing book tours and stuff, that I expected that it would be mostly read by educators and maybe parents, but the audiences were full of 20-somethings who had gotten a hold of the book and were connecting it with themselves. So, people, once you get them, maybe they heard, me say something on NPR or something, but, once they got interested, they went and got the book. So
I think as Viktor Frankl said, this is like a need that we have. It's some very deep need or drive.
Yeah, that's right.
The drive for meaning.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So yeah, I think the hardest thing is getting people started and getting people to be aware that there's this whole other orientation to life other than how can you fill your garage full of BMWs or do whatever it is that everybody is saying this is what everybody wants in life, and just getting them to think, well, no, there's other things that people want that may be more important. That awareness is...
I think very fundamentally we're increasingly nihilistic in our society. We follow what the Kardashian sisters are going to do more than what our spouse or our family or our neighbors are doing. And I think there's something, and this is something Nietzsche, who was a proto-existentialist, predicted, and this is what Durkheim predicted when he wrote the book Suicide. He said, as we start splitting apart, we'll start following things that have less purpose, and we have to find this. I think this is actually a public health problem, and I'm in public health. I view it as something that is an endemic but growing, not an epidemic, but an endemic but growing public health issue.
It's like a sense of emptiness that
Ennui.
and you're right, I hadn't thought about that, but it does. I'd always thought of it as more of a media thing, that the media goes to the lowest common denominator. They think that the Kardashians are what sells. That's what we're going to go with for this story, and we're not going to, tell them stories of Nelson Mandela. Yours is a deeper. You're right. It could be the enemy and the segmentation of society and the mistrust of institutions and all that stuff too. Yeah.
But I have some data that might be of interest to you. For my doctoral dissertation, I counted the number of self-help books in print every year from 1950 to present. And then I looked at it with general social survey data on ennui and varying other factors. The more people distrusted their elected officials, the more people felt isolated from what was going on in the world or dissatisfied, the more the number of self-help books increased. So we turned inward when we cannot.
So we're seeking help.
So we're seeking self-control. So the argument of my doctoral work was that self-help, the rise in self-help, is a quest for self-control when we feel out of control of our other lives. So if that data is useful to you in any way.
Well, it's useful that if we can invest in self-help books, this would be the perfect year to do that.
It would be.
Really.
Yeah.
It would be. Yes.
Big time. I can't even imagine what the psychological effects of this current political situation is going to be.
It's both educational and it's alienating at the same time. Kids are learning a lot about big variances. It's not boring anymore, that's for sure, but it's become too much of a reality show and scary.
Gail Sheehy just wrote about this.
Who did?
Gail Sheehy, yes. Yeah.
Oh, really?
And she
What did she say?
Well, she was sort of concentrating on the indicators that everyday violence is rising. People don't believe conflicts can be resolved. So that there's more violence almost immediately. Pursue reviews.
That and a million other hypotheses would be.
Could it be chemotherapy?
That's one.
That's one hypothesis. It's
What about the
social control?
But what about the chemotherapy argument? Like that this is that all of this bad stuff was lurking under the surface, and that we kind of need to bring it up, shock it, kill it, and a lot of other stuff's gonna get blazed in the way. But
If only I believed it.
I know I'm trying to be hopeful.
Well, it also depends on how it ends.
Right.
It really does.
I also think, given how polarizing this season has been, I wonder if there would be significant effects for openness to experience, because I believe that if there would be significant effects on people's openness to experience, I feel like if we are indeed turning inward and we start surrounding ourselves with like-minded individuals, because it's so polarized, just individuals that think something different are just so far away from what we believe. If that might lessen one's exploration, lessen one's exposure to different things, and so I do wonder about the upcoming cohort, just how that might affect
I think it'd
certain
be wonderful
processes.
to look at the rate of voting.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay, that's awesome.
It'd be great
I'll have to
if
read
you
it.
saw young people participating in the election more this year. I don't know whether that'll happen.
I think it
Probably
will.
not, but
I've
it'd
been
be
running
great if
voter
it did.
registration drives in my classes, and more people than in previous.
So that would be a positive growth. That would be a growth thing from this.
You're in what state?
in Wisconsin,
Really?
at UW Madison.
Really?
And so after class, every day for the every week for the last 3 weeks, I've been running voter registration drives, and
young people are coming?
People are coming.
Really?
Even when it requires, 1 week they don't have the thing they need, and the next week they bring their paperwork in because they have to bring. So it's a high bar. They have to bring in proof of residence and a current ID and all this stuff. I mean, I've been impressed. These are first-year students, so these are all 18 and 19-year-olds who are probably voting for the first time,
Amazing.
and who need to register because they're not living at home anymore. Yeah, and they are.
Well,
And I feel good about
yeah, good for you for doing that.
Yeah, really.
Got to do
good.
some small part.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
good.
I think everyone else has kind of dispersed a little.
Okay.
But I've enjoyed this conversation.
We're being such good citizens.
Well, it's fun.
Yes.
Quickly, I know you're still talking, you're wrapping things up, but this will conclude our time together for this afternoon. Of course, you can hang out for a little bit. I still think there's a few more drinks over there. Hang out as long as you want. I actually think more than anything I could possibly say here, I think ending with a conversation about questions and asking better questions is kind of the perfect way of ending. I think that's how our thoughts move forward, and the stakeholders who are waiting for answers for these things benefit when we spend time thinking about asking better questions and how we respond to them. So I just want to thank you for your time and involvement today. It was a great day, I think, of conversations, and we're going to pick right back up tomorrow morning as we continue on. So, thank you. Awesome.
Dick, can I have 2 minutes of your time?